kind of a rough day, only because this is the second day of me living with the Omnipod. Yeah, I almost seen a blood sugar almost to 300 this morning. They started me off on a really low insulin to carb ratio. If for those of you that don't know, I used a 1 per 10 when I was on injections, and they started me at a 1 per 23, and the trainer and I were looking at each other like, that don't seem right. But they did like their whatever formula they use, and it definitely wasn't right, and they changed it this morning to 1 per 18. It definitely does not work at lunch, but it did work tonight for dinner because I checked an hour and a half later. I was 142, not quite where I want to be. I'd rather be like at 120. However, I'm just happy to not see a number at above like 170. And I know we're going to fix problems. They fixed my insulin sensitivity. They dropped that down a little bit from 87 to like 75. So not too bad, but if I have a feeling that this is not going to work for breakfast because I'm eating like the same breakfast, and this same breakfast I've almost had to take 5 units for in the past, and it's only giving me 2 or 3. So I'm thinking I'm going to go high at breakfast tomorrow. But I think I'm going to suggest to them to do a 1 per 15 for breakfast and lunch and keep dinner at a lower level for now until we figure things out. Kind of weird how your body's going to respond differently to different things and different timings. But so far, loving the Omnipod. It is still on my arm. This is my first one. But I'm cold, so I put a sweater on. So with that being said, we'll jump into today's video. It's Maddie. Welcome back to my channel. Do not mind my red face. I am battling a lot of hyperglycemia right now because they are very conservative on insulin doses for my new Omnipod insulin pump. But you know what? We're not going to complain. I haven't had high blood sugar like this in a while, although it does make me feel like crap. But we're going to get through it and we're going to push through it. So anyways, today's video is how to kind of have a good endo appointment, or tips to make an endo appointment good or make it better than what you would think it would be. So my first tip for you is to go in there with a good blood sugar. Because I've noticed like I might get anxious or nervous beforehand. Correct that blood sugar before you go in, because think about it, that's like the last blood sugar like you're gonna see for your A1C, or that, you know, that's your last reflection of what you're doing. And like for me, when I go in, they prick my finger for my A1C, and then they ask me what my Dexcom said or my last finger prick. They will write that down and what time it was and the last time I ate anything. They do like real basic things and then prick my finger. But to me, if I walk in there with a healthy blood sugar, I feel better. It actually makes my blood pressure feel better too, because I feel like if your blood sugar is really high or really low, I think that can mess with your blood pressure, especially if you're low because your heart's racing really fast, your blood pressure is probably high. And I know when I was diagnosed in diabetic ketoacidosis with a blood sugar of over 500, my blood pressure was like really high. If you didn't watch my diagnosis story, I think my blood pressure was 180 over 90, which is extremely high for someone my age. Now when I go in, it's usually like 120 over 80, 125 over 80. It's usually pretty good, maybe even lower than that. Now the standard is stay under 130 over 80. So just so you guys know, that is a new standard. But definitely walk in there with a healthier blood sugar, because it makes a better impression about your last blood sugars and how you're taking care of yourself in just a one glimpse view to your diabetes team. And it also helps to me reduce your stress, anxieties, and blood pressure. Number 2 is, if you have any questions, concerns, or suggestions for your endocrinologist, write them down on a piece of paper as you come up with them and keep a hold of them until your next appointment. We typically go every 3 months. However, depending on how well controlled you are or how trustworthy your doctor is or how they like to help manage, they might put you in every 4 months, every 6 months. I know me now, because like I'm super well controlled and super well like meticulous about keeping my blood sugars normal. Like I only go in like every 4 months now. At least that's what they're doing with me, like every 4 months-ish. 5 months, maybe even if my A1C even continues to go down like into the low 5s, they may even say screwed going every 3 or 4 months, come every 6. So it's actually a good idea to keep a list of your questions, so that you, no matter when you go in for your next appointment, that you have these questions to ask your endocrinologist. They can give you some guidelines, they can give you some tips. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to suggest the solution that's for you, but they can kind of help guide you in that aspect. Number 3 is to keep track of your blood sugars and your eating habits through some sort of journaling or logbook. You can log them on your phone. You can log them in a journal. You don't have to do it all the time, especially if it's for meals that you know that, hey, I know I need 5.5 units or whatever it is at this amount of pre-bolus and whatever. You get the picture. But the Diabetic Health Journal, I highly recommend. I highly recommend logging it into a blood sugar like meter phone, or a meter on your phone, like the app, like the One Touch Vario has them. I think Contour has them. You can get apps like Sugarmate that also are in comparison to the Dexcom, where you can add events and add when you took a manual blood sugar check, when you calibrated, when you added food, when you added the insulin, and so on and so forth, so that you can actually see when you put something in and what came out of it. Because if you know what you put in and what came out, you can know to make adjustments with it. And like things like Gluco, which I've barely been using for a little while, but it's been pretty awesome to upload my PDM and see trends through both Dexcom and my PDM, like finger sticks, have everything up together and just be able to have everything in one place is amazing. So definitely log your stuff, keep track of what you're dosing, and even if you have to like write things down for a while until you figure out for certain meals like what to do, perfect. At least I know, I'm going to show you guys in the Omnipod, you can actually create custom meals and custom like meals. If you go to a fast food restaurant a lot, you could put like a heart by it and it'll save it for you, so that all you got to do next time is click this meal. It'll automatically send the carbs to the like the carb calculator, and then it'll give you the dose that it suggests, or that you have it programmed for. So definitely consider logging your blood sugars, logging everything that you use to manage your condition. Look at your exercise levels and seeing what impacts your blood sugar, because that's going to make your appointment smoother. It's going to help your endocrinologist also see patterns that maybe you missed, and you may be able to see patterns that they're missing, or that they're not understanding. Why is this happening? You only know it because you live with the condition yourself. Number 4, always ask your doctor if there's anything new that maybe you could get started on that could help you. I know for me, like, when I was like transitioning to the pump, like when it was back in January, like they just handed me brochures and they said these are the 3 pumps. They have Medtronic, we have Tandem, T-Slim, and we have Omnipod. And they kind of like wanted me to go with T-Slim. That's another story for another day, because it integrates with Dexcom, but I wasn't really into T-Slim that much. It's a cool pump, don't get me wrong. I think a lot of you that have it absolutely love it, but I wasn't a fan of tubing. I wasn't a fan of just the fact that I probably would break the screen and I'd get the tubing tangled, I'd rip my set out. I wasn't a fan of the basal IQ feature anyway at this point. But definitely do your research and present things to your endocrinologist that might be able to help you, whether that's switching your insulin, switching to maybe, some people are using non-traditional type 2 medications if you are an ultra-resistant type 1 diabetic, which is kind of not as common. But if you are, ask your doctor about those medications. Ask your doctor if you can get hooked up on a continuous glucose monitor like the Dexcom, or a flash glucose monitor like the Freestyle Libre. Ask them about pump options. Ask them about other different tools and meters and monitors and things that can help you better manage your condition and better manage type 1 diabetes for you. And the 5th and final tip is know that you know your own body best, but also be willing to work together with your endocrinology team to make the best decisions possible. Find an endocrinologist that definitely listens to you more than they preach to you. They need to be the ones to be more willing to listen, because they don't live with the condition. They don't live in your body. They don't know what you do on a daily basis, what activities you participate in, what you dose for, what kind of foods you eat. Only you know that. So you need to advocate for yourself what's been going on. And then they often look at your trends and say, okay, this makes sense. Let's keep it the same. Or do you think we need adjustments? And you may say yes. And they may say, I agree. Here's what I suggest. What do you suggest? You need to learn to like compromise with different things, but don't get wrapped up in the numbers, because every time I go in, they always are calculating numbers, and it's like, that don't match what I've been doing the past 3 months, because I've been able to maintain this on this level, and you're saying this level. Why would I fix what isn't broken? And they can obviously, like if you have a continuous glucose monitor or your meter, they will take that every time and look at the data from that. And then they're able to see very clearly if you're fooling them around or turning them around. But it's important not to lie about what your own health is, because obviously if you lie about a high or low blood sugar, like it could make a difference between killing you or keeping you alive. So that's something that actually has to happen in an endocrinology office. The diabetic nurses and the endocrinologists have to trust that what you're saying for blood sugar numbers is true. I never would lie about something that means to my health. Even if like they think that I'm lying, I definitely am not a liar. I would not lie about something that could damage my health. But definitely learn to compromise and but don't over compromise, if that makes sense. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video about the 5 tips I have to make a successful endo appointment. These are very basic. I've only been going to an endocrinologist for almost a year. I am now on a continuous glucose monitor and the Omnipod insulin pump, still regulating this baby. This baby gets changed tomorrow. So, yeah, I have 2 very powerful tools that can now help me, and look forward to more videos about the Omnipod Dash system. Like I said, I am one of the first 15 people in the state of Wisconsin to have the Omnipod Dash, and I am the first from my clinic to have the Omnipod Dash. So anyways, if you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. Feel free to hit that subscribe button down below. I post videos every single week about diabetes plus more. And if you do decide to subscribe, there is a notification bell. When you click that, you will get a notification from YouTube on any of your devices when I upload something new. So until tomorrow for another video, take care, God bless, be kind, spread positivity, and be thankful. Bye, everyone.